When I first got to the rear company area, just before I went to the field, I met a guy and we introduced ourselves. And he said, "My name's Mike Harbottle." Mike, he said, H-A-R, bottle. So I said, "My name's Mike LaForce." Mike, L-A, Force. And he said, "Call me Red." So I said, "Call me Blue." You know, so for some reason, when we got to the company, we were introducing ourselves. He jumps off, he tells everybody, "I'm Red, he's Blue." So I was Blue from then on. That was my nickname. Nobody even knew my real name at the time. I think every Vietnam veteran, most any veteran, has got a story. And I'm going to try to tell some of mine. Okay. Started, let's go back 1966, my senior year. Had to make decisions, what I'm going to do in my life. The war was going on. I decided I would hold off college and get my service out of the way. At the time, I was going to a Jesuit high school, McQuaid in Rochester. It was a prep school. And they were very proud of the fact that all their graduates went to college. When I told my counselor I wasn't going to college, he got pretty upset and actually asked me if I would talk to one of their alumni that comes in, a psychiatrist. So I said I would, and met with him, and he says, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, Father Baldwin says you don't want to go to college." I said, "No, I'm going to go in the service." And he says, "Well, if you drafted?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you know, if you get drafted, you probably end up in the infantry." I says, "I know, I understand." He says, "You got all that? You won't stand?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, good luck." He said, "I don't think, at least you know what you're doing." Yeah, that picture, my brother Joe painted it for the VFW years ago. And he did it from a picture that I had. And it's me carrying an M60 machine gun, which I carried for a couple months in Vietnam. That's taken up somewhere around on K, I think, in June of '68, maybe around sometime around that time. I was walking point, and it was pretty thick. It was pretty thick, and it was in a heavily booby-trapped area. So I'm looking right in front of me. And all of a sudden, Lonnie fires twice, bang, bang. So of course you naturally hit the ground. But I'm looking up, and as I'm going down, I see a body flop way ahead of me, you know. We took some fire and then nothing. Whoever was shooting ran away. But this guy had me zeroed in. Lonnie says this guy was heavily camouflaged. And Lonnie said the guy was aiming right at me. Yeah. And the guy didn't think that we could see him, but Lonnie picked him up. I don't know how, some movement. And I was right in front of Lonnie, and the guy had me right in his sights, you know, and Lonnie dusted him, you know. And then we knew they ran, and they had an ambush set up. We could tell afterwards. But they call it D Mao, means run away. You know, so Lonnie spotted them before they had a chance to open up on us, you know. So that's what they would do, and they wouldn't stay and fight. They just take a shot at you, you know, and then take off, you know.
So, you know. He saved your life?
Yeah, I think he did. Because he said the guy had me right in this, you know, open. It was sights, you know. The guy was right on me, you know. It wasn't very far away either. I took quite a few pictures when I was in Vietnam, and a lot of them were helicopters. And usually we were in helicopters almost every day, sometimes twice a day, a few times at night. And so it was a big part of my experience. Usually what the routine was, they would come in, pick up our company, take us to an area we didn't necessarily want to go to, but that was our job. The big thing was to get off the helicopter fast The pilots and door gunners did not want us hanging around a certain area. So they would hover, and we would get off, find some cover, and go on from there. In the first Cav, we had the best pilots and door gunners. Usually second tour guys that were the best, because the first Cav always had the best chopper pilots. And they're very brave. They take us in hot areas, especially our medevac choppers, the guys that came and got us if somebody got wounded. They would come in under fire. They were kind of crazy, and I got to know a few of the door gunners, and the pilots were all kind of crazy, so they had to be. But they stayed there. They were second, third tour guys, and loved them. We had these burnt pebbles that we used to cook our food with, or we'd take C4, which is explosive, out of our Claymore mines, and that stuff you could just light it on fire and burn. Yeah. So we would get a can full of leeches and put some C4 in there and watch them die. Yeah. A little sick, but that was our entertainment. You know, we didn't have anything else to do, but we hated leeches. Oh my God, Ringo was terrified of them. He was just he hated them. He just tear his clothes off every once in a while. He was, I don't know how to put this, but he was so afraid that one of them was going to crawl up his ass. And I don't know why, but he would literally, Blue, check. I said, I'm not going to. No, they don't do that. He says, I know, they're trying to. But he just freaked out. He just hated them. He just hated them. So, but my Leeches story, I hated them too. There's a lot of dark side to war. I remember I got a little ashamed of myself one time. We were like, I've tried to write about this one time, and it was, we were going through a village. We had a new guy in named Richie. He was a big, heavy kid, and he wanted to walk point. So we're going through a village, and there's a Viet Cong. We didn't see a lot of Viet Cong, but he runs out of a little straw hut and shoots and runs away, you know, and nobody got a shot off or anything. Shot Richie in the belly, okay? So he's hit, but he's conscious, he's talking. Doc gives him morphine. We're calling a helicopter, right? And he's laughing and joking, and, you know, but morphine makes you like you crazy stuff. So they take Richie away, you know, they medevac Richie. So then the medevac, later on the guy comes back supplying the helicopter and said, Richie didn't make it, he died on a helicopter. And shit, and it shocked me, you know. And I remember that night on guard you know, at night you dig a hole and you take turns, you know, pulling guard. I thought I should just be miserable, and I kind of wasn't, you know. I've been in country a long time. Usually I felt bad, you know, you know, if you lose somebody, you know, you really feel bad, and, you know, some of us cry or whatever, you know, and I just couldn't get that emotion going for some reason. And I loved the kid, you know, and I don't understand that, but does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, it's almost like you became numb to it or something.
I think I did. Gomer's on watch, and I hear, Blue. I woke up, and Gomer's right here with a machine gun. He's got in a hand a machine gun. And there's a fucking NVA soldier about from here to that wall. Yeah. Look, like this, you know. Fuck. Gomer could not shoot. He locked up. And that's when I first started watching him after that. So I slid in the hole. I just fired, you know, a machine gun. And fired off 4 or 5 rounds. And the gun jammed. But the guy ended up dying. Slow death. I shouldn't be saying. But I think I just right away put it on the back burner, like it didn't happen. You know, I didn't justify it. You know, just bang bang. You know,
Instinct.
I didn't say, well, I saved Gomer's life or blah blah blah. I just like, and I wouldn't go near them. You know, they they have to take all the papers and whatever and find, blah blah. And I just look, and it's like it never happened. I don't think I ever really, there was couple similar things, but I mean, that guy died slow too, but it's war, you know. Maybe I got an answer for that someday,
Want to show me your trophy?
Oh, yeah, here's my trophy. It reads Vietnam War, 2nd place. I had this awarded to myself. I took it over to the VFW and I thought it'd be funny. Some of the boys didn't think it was that funny, but that's my trophy. So, stuck with it. The day I got my order, they sent it out to the field, and the first sergeant says, okay, the morning chopper comes out. It's called a trans. They bring out supplies or whatever. And then he says, when it comes out this morning, you're going back. This is like a week before your year's up. So you have to process out. So you're going out today. So good. So we sent a platoon out. My platoon leaves. I shake hands with everybody. That's all I got 10 minutes because they're going out on a patrol. My squad, my platoon. So bye guys, So I go out and bang bang, they get hit. So and they're not far. They just left. So I grabbed extra ammo and stuff, and first, where are you going? And and I'm in the jungle alone on my last freaking day in the field, and I'm thinking, what the fuck, But it was nothing, And I took the stuff up to them, and it was all over. And they looked at me like I was stupid, Get the fuck out of here, But anyway, so they came back with me. Chopper comes in, and I remember, so the chopper, I'm sitting with my feet on the skid, and he freaking makes a circle around the company, Bye, And then they had a place to stay. USO had a place, So I was sleeping off a little jag, and then at night I call Mom. I was going to wait and surprise them, just get a cab home because I was like a day early, but I couldn't wait. So I called him. I said, "Can you come up? Somebody come up to the airport and get me." And like midnight. So Dad borrowed a station wagon, woke the kids up, and they came up to Rochester to get me, And it was so weird. They're all there, and I don't know, the kids are all, and so I get in the plane and say, "Hey, Mike," so the best feeling ever, And so then we come home, and dropped me off. They had a place upstairs for me, so there you go, and everybody goes to sleep, and I'm laying there. I'm home, and I couldn't sleep for like 2 days.
Right.
Just a natural high.
Yeah.
I could not. I was just wired. I wasn't drinking or anything. I just wired up. I just like. Yeah. I remember trying to get comfortable in a bed. I couldn't sleep really. I actually think I slept on the floor the first night. And but then it was like, okay, here you're home, and then nobody talked about it. It's like, and I know my mom and dad didn't. It's like, okay. And it wasn't nothing said, but you just got the impression nobody wanted to talk about it. And nobody did back here. And if you were here and you didn't tell, and you didn't talk about it. Right. Even with other vets.
Right.
It's my daily therapy. Any day I can get out and walk, calms me down. This is where I do my thinking. That's where I also call it my church because it really is my church in a way. This is the only place I pray. It's very peaceful out here. I like to come at night or in the afternoon. So this time of year, there's nobody else on the golf course. It's like my own private golf course. I really enjoy it. I don't know what I'd do without it. All right, this piece of paper, when my daughter was in high school, I believe their senior trip, they were in Washington, D.C., and they went to the wall, the Vietnam Wall. And she called me up and asked me if there was any names on the wall that I knew. So, of course, the three friends that I lost there, James King, Larry Fox, Doug Hahn. It's such a waste. It's so bad, you know, but I've never forgot them. And every Veterans Day and every Memorial Day, I go to the bar, I bought 4 beers, you know. Most of the guys, like a couple of bartenders over here, when I walk in, I mean, they'll set 4 beers up. I drink them all. But I'll tell you what, though, thinking of those guys, it's been good for me because if I have a bad day or whatever, you know, and I get ashamed of myself. You know, these guys, they were kids, you know, 20s, maybe 19, 20, 21, and that's all they had, you know. So how can I be? You know, I try to remember that, you know, and that's really lifted my spirits because, you know, I just kicked myself. And yeah, see, these guys, they would kick me in the ass, you know. What do you know, go have a beer, you know. Don't worry about, you know, we would, you know. Yeah. So that, I use that, you know. That has given me a zest of life. That has given me appreciation of life. I've kept it with me all. And I carry their name. That piece of paper I carry, I've changed it like 3 or 4 times. When it gets, you know, whatever's nearby, I'll write their names and stick it back in there. The soldier stood and faced God, which must always come to pass. He hoped his shoes were shining just as brightly as his brass. Step forward now, you soldier, how shall I deal with you? Have you always turned the other cheek to my church? Have you been true? The soldier squared his shoulders and said, no, Lord, I guess I ain't, 'cause those of us who carry guns can't always be a saint. Had to work most Sundays, and at times my talk was tough, and sometimes I've been violent, 'cause the world is awful rough. But I never took a penny that wasn't mine to keep, though I worked a lot of overtime when the bills got just too steep. And never passed a cry for help, though at times I shook with fear. Sometimes, God forgive me, I've wept unmanly tears. I know I don't deserve a place among the people here. They never wanted me around except to calm their fears. If you've a place for me, Lord, it needn't be so grand. I never expected or had too much, but if you don't, I'll understand. There was a silence all around the throne where the saints had often trod, as a soldier waited quietly for the judgment of his God. Step forward now, you soldier. You've borne your burdens well. Walk peace on heaven's streets. You've done your time in hell. I often claimed I lost my faith in Vietnam, you know, but I don't know how it was that strong anyway, you know. And there might be some stuff I got to answer for, you know. But, you know, my vision of God is He's a father. He's my father. And fathers forgive a lot of stuff. You know, I'm hoping He's my father.